In a world full of podcasts, one podcast has one episode to give you 1 week of movie news. This is The Weekly Reel. Welcome to The Weekly Reel for the week ending August the 1st. First up in movie news, Fantastic Four opened last week and did lower than predicted box office numbers. Many projections had this outperforming Superman's opening weekend, given how historically the two comic book movie universes competing at the box office always had Marvel coming out on top swinging. Superman did $125 million in the States during its initial opening weekend, and Fantastic Four underperformed, coming in at $118 million. It is slightly outperforming Superman overseas, but when it comes to a colorful, retro-styled, good-natured superhero flick, Superman has beaten Fantastic Four to the punch, and with audiences clamoring to see more. So I saw this over the weekend and really found it to be kind of a fantastic bore. It's basically a somewhat amusing family flick that then has a disaster movie suddenly come crashing into its living room. Pedro Pascal himself worried about his casting and wasn't sure if he pulled it off, and I'd have to agree with him on that.
The theater of that is something to step into. I don't know if I'd do it well.
Like, if you're going to cast him as yet another face of a huge franchise IP, then at least play to his natural charisma and talents. He's really neutered and subdued here, often more invisible than Invisible Woman. He's a quiet egghead who blandly blends into the background. Fantastic Four has more in common with Roland Emmerich movies like Moonfall or Michael Bay's Transformers than anything else. I appreciate them deciding to just toss us into this world, but they also need to kind of toss us a bone. We get like 15 minutes with the characters who just spout exposition and then learn Galactus is on the way to eat the planet, and hilariously they just defeat him with the equivalent of a giant Deus Ex Machina mousetrap in one of the movie's 2 action sequences. Coming from Matt Shakman, who made his name directing an ensemble makeshift family for years in Always Sunny, Fantastic Four having little humor and no soul shows that really no one can overcome the MCU machinery. Now that's it for anything Cape shit related for this episode. I'm really just tired of talking about them, so now we're going to pivot over to some sequel shit, some comedy and some horror. First up is the Happy Gilmore sequel, coming in at a ripe 30 years after the original. It became the biggest debut in Netflix history, garnering 47 million views in just 3 days. And I'm happy to report that it's surprisingly not that bad. I mean, the original is a comedy classic, and this doesn't come close to that status, but as it stands, it's just kind of dumb fun. You know, it knows what it is, and it doesn't try to be more. It's actually just having a good time, being self-aware, cranking up the cameos, stupid jokes, and gags to an 11. So I judge a movie by how well, it delivers on its premise, and this set out to make a legacy sequel knowing what we all think about those, and really it just had fun with the concept. It does what it set out to do, while Adam Sandler, his family, and friends all get to cash checks while doing it. So speaking of legacy comedy sequels, not to be outdone by Sandler, is Happy Gilmore 2 co-star Ben Stiller is cooking up a 4th movie in the Meet the Parents franchise, set to be titled Focker-in-Law. The first Meet the Parents is another bona fide comedy classic, but the sequels were pretty terrible and unnecessary, continuing to milk the concept to every last drop. And yes, you can milk a concept to the last drop. Like, you can milk anything with nipples, right? Focker-in-Law's Ben Stiller will be 61, 4 years older than the 57-year-old De Niro was during the first one. They're both joined by returning stars Owen Wilson, Blythe Danner, Terry Polo, and adds Ariana Grande, of all people. It comes to us right in time for the holidays, next November 25th, 2026, thanks to those motherfuckers at Paramount Pictures. Next up, The Social Network Part 2, The Zuck Strikes Back. And even more sequel news, we got word this week that Jeremy Allen White and Mikey Madison are circling roles in the sequel to David Fincher's 2010 critically acclaimed The Social Network. Fincher won't be returning as he's busy directing a follow-up to another filmmaker's critically acclaimed movie, a sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood titled The Adventures of Cliff Booth. Instead, original Social Network screenwriter Aaron Sorkin will not just be penning the sequel, but also directing. Part 2 will center around Sorkin's original screenplay for the new movie, which explores the story behind the Wall Street Journal's The Facebook Files by Jeff Horowitz, an explosive series of articles published in October of 2021 that exposed the inner workings of and multiple harms caused by Facebook. Ideally, White would be playing Horowitz and Madison would be playing the whistleblower behind the series of articles. Jesse Eisenberg will not be returning to play Mark Zuckerberg. Instead, Sorkin's Chicago 7 star Jeremy Strong will be playing the Zuck. Now, Strong is a fantastic actor, but is he really the best choice out there for the role? He's about a decade too old for the time period they're covering and really doesn't even bear a passing resemblance to Zuckerberg. Personally, my choice would have been Joseph Quinn if Eisenberg was dead set on not returning. During Fantastic Four, with that blonde, Caesar-styled wig, I was actually distracted at times by how much he reminded me of the Zuck. You know, I'm just not sure this really even needs a follow-up. You know, the first one really worked because at its core, it's a very universal story about a Faustian bargain. Zuck's betrayal of his friend and the ensuing destruction left in its wake as he sits there in the bitter irony of getting what he wanted but not what he needed. His choices leaving him alone and friendless. Had it adhered to a more literal interpretation of how Facebook was founded, it would not have been nearly as successful, I think. It was really just a framework to hang a story of selling one's soul to the devil for wealth and fame, which Fincher's direction is absolutely essential to making it work because 90% of it really just kind of takes place in rooms with characters arguing. Sorkin understands dialogue really well, but he's kind of a very ham-fisted director who overplays his own bombastic writing, which Fincher really wisely underplayed, only just uncorking it in pivotal moments where it mattered the most. No one wants to see what will surely be a loud and sanctimonious affair about the ongoing casualties of fictional Zuck's actions. We already felt the humanistic consequences in that single lonely shot of him at the end, sadly refreshing his own sight. As the saying goes, one death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a statistic. Finally, in movie news for this week, we're going to talk about a different kind of devils other than the ones in charge of these unholy tech companies. The Devils is a newly released and instant New York Times best-selling novel by Joe Abercrombie, which is a dark fantasy tale set in a gritty, war-torn world filled with dark magic, political intrigue, brutal conflict, centering around monks, immortal knights, werewolves, elves, pirates, vampires, and necromancers. Oh my. Oh. All caught up in a plot to bring a thief to Troy in an alternate reality medieval Europe. James Cameron loved it so much, according to Empire magazine, that he immediately snatched up the rights with an eye to write and direct a feature adaptation. Said Cameron, quote, "It's nuts. The whole thing is off its tits." Yeah, Cameron said that. He goes on to elaborate. I was literally reading parts of the book out loud to my wife, Susie. It's a change of pace for Cameron, who has spent the last 16 years immersed in the world of Pandora and the Avatar franchise, and is set to continue crafting those all the way through 2031. Then he still has Ghosts of Hiroshima that he wants to do sometime, maybe during or after that. Hiroshima telling the story from those directly involved in the tragedy from the destructive blasts that turned Japan into a nuclear hellscape. In comparison to Hiroshima, Cameron had this to say about The Devils, quote, "It doesn't have the kind of conscience that Avatar does, but I don't know if that's a bad thing. Hiroshima is a movie you do because you have to. The Devils is a movie you do for fun," he says. Time to let it rip. Cameron continues to be a force of nature at 70 years old. We all hope the brilliant filmmaker and brave pioneer is around for a long time, as every new film by him is an event unto itself.
His name is James Cameron, the bravest pioneer. No budget too steep, no sea too deep. Who's that? It's him, James Cameron.
Now we're going to get into early buzz, and kicking us off is the Naked Gun reboot. Only one man has the particular set of skills to lead the police squad and save the world. That's right, the Naked Gun reboot comes out this week, and it's getting a very positive reception of 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. Directed by Lonely Island alumni Akiva Schaffer, who also did Palm Springs, and the very underrated pop star Never Stop Stopping. This one looked like a banger from the first trailer, and the reviews seem to agree with that. First up, Chris Knight from Original Sin said this, quote, "The Naked Gun is giddy as charged. There were a few moments where audience laughter drowned out the next joke, so I guess I may have to see it again." Neil Minow from Movie Mom also had this to say, quote, "Nothing is sacred here, and everything is up for humor, including the franchise itself, and the jokes fly by so fast and so shamelessly that by the time you realize you didn't like one, 3 funnier ones have appeared." And finally, Ty Burr from Washington Post had a little bit more criticism for it, saying, quote, The early scenes are so shamelessly, stupidly funny with a hit-to-miss gag ratio of about 75% that you can't help but be disappointed as that ratio steadily sinks over the course of the movie. The Naked Gun reboot opens wide this weekend, so go check it out in theaters. I'll be seeing it on Friday, and we'll report back in our next episode. Also releasing this week, Together, stars Dave Franco and Alison Brie, who years into their relationship find themselves at a crossroad as they move to the country, abandoning all that is familiar in their lives except each other. With tensions already flaring, a nightmarish encounter with a mysterious unnatural force threatens to corrupt their lives, their love, and their flesh. The consensus is that given an extra layer of authenticity with the meta casting of real-life married couple Alison Brie and Dave Franco, who are at the top of their game here, Together is a body horror flick that is as emotionally sticky as it is memorably gnarly. Brianna Ziegler from AV Club had praise for it, saying, quote, "The profound depth of feeling generated by Brie and Franco in the midst of this genre film, one perhaps unattainable if they weren't also married in real life, gives Together a real shot at the greatest romance of the year." Bill Goody Coons from Arizona Republic also had praise for it, saying, quote, "There are in fact a lot of funny lines in the movie, another requirement of a good body horror film. If you can't laugh while you squirm, it's unbearable. Together is more than bearable. It's really fun." Finally, Christopher Lloyd from the Film Yap had a little bit of criticism for it, saying, "This romantic body horror about a couple who literally can't bear to be apart either needed to be a lot scarier, more erotic, or just plain less goofy. The Exorcist meets emotional labor." Emotional labor. God, what a loaded phrase. All right, so that's our reviews for Together that releases this week. Next, we're going to talk about Sam Raimi's Send Help. Sam Raimi, the legendary director responsible for the first Spider-Man trilogy, the criminally underrated Drag Me to Hell, and Doctor Strange 2, had his upcoming film Send Help test screened. Now, Send Help is about two colleagues who become stranded on a deserted island, the only survivors of a plane crash. On the island, they must overcome past grievances and work together to survive, but ultimately it's a battle of wills and wits to make it out alive. One of the test screeners had this to say, quote, "Sam Raimi has made a great film. This is a return to his twisted roots with a vengeance. A gleefully demented morality tale pitting morally bankrupt characters against each other in a constant game of one-upsmanship. Bloody, grotesque, and darkly hilarious in all the ways we've come to expect from him. Raimi's signature style is back, total return to form. Once the plot kicked in on the island, the audience was laughing and gasping and clapping in total satisfaction at this very wicked ending only Raimi could come up with. There's real sadism here, the kind Raimi does best. He torments his leads, bathes them in fluids, and lots of blood, and dares the audience to keep caring. It's mean, stylish, and absolutely thrilling." Finally, this week in Early Buzz, we're going to talk about Blue Moon. But since we also got a trailer as the reviews started coming in, it'll segue us into our trailers for the week right after. Described as Loren's Hart struggles with alcoholism and mental health issues, he attempts to maintain his composure during the premiere of Oklahoma. Blue Moon is sitting at a very positive 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Stephen A. Russell from Time Out had this to say, quote, "Linklater knows how to draw the most intimate performances from Hawk, and he's brilliant here. His pairing with Scott, so devastating in All of Us Strangers, is note perfect." Anna York from Pop Matters also had praise for it, saying, quote, "Here's a simple one. Blue Moon is as close as it gets to a perfect work of art. Exceptionally written, superbly acted, and wonderfully moving. It's a sucker punch little gem of a film, gripping as it is entertaining." The sole negative review comes to us from Kevin Marr from the Times of UK. Quote, "One of the most committed performances of Ethan Hawke's career is cruelly undercut by some ridiculous shrinking tricks in this biopic about the Broadway songwriter Loren's Hart." Now, reading through his review, he's really preoccupied with some of the camera tricks used in order to make Ethan Hawke appear a little bit shorter than everybody else. So, depending on how much that might affect your enjoyment of the movie, something to possibly keep in mind. But overall, very positive, 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, and seems to be one worth checking out. And we're going to look at the trailer for it next. All right, so this is the first trailer for Blue Moon. Taking a look at that now. This is from Richard Linklater, Before After Sunrise trilogy. Dazed and confused.
For a quarter of a century.
Everybody
and
wants
the first
some.
show he writes with someone else is gonna be the biggest hit he ever had. Am I bitter, Larry? Yes.
For over 20 years, Hart and his partner Richard Rodgers created a string of hits,
I want 10 copies of that.
Write me a check.
such as My Funny
Andrew
Valentine,
Scott.
The Lady is a Tramp, and Blue Moon.
Your work is brilliant. That's not the problem. No, I'm
Fantastic. And
They should put my
season
picture
2
on
of
that bottle.
Fleabag.
The whiskey that made Loren's heart unemployable. I think we should be dreaming about new Rodgers and Hart, something people haven't seen before, something big.
We have to work like professionals, Larry. It's a business. That's all.
Elizabeth, I adore this girl.
You're going to introduce me to Richard Rodgers, right?
She's a girl. See, I always thought that your interests went more towards.
My interests. So now you are going to analyze me? Thank you, Dr. Bacardi.
What do you think she sees in him? I think she recognizes she's being adored by one of the great appreciators of beauty.
There's no way around that one, is there? When the girl loves the guy with all of her heart and he just doesn't return her feeling? Do you have any idea what that feels like?
Nobody ever loved me that much.
It's got a cool retro jazzy feel to it.
It's really striking. Are you and she?
Oh, no. I mean, I'm in love with her. But everybody's in love with her.
Good atmosphere. All right.
You saw me standing alone
Wise guy.
without a dream in my heart, without a love of mine.
Yeah. A lot of atmosphere. Looks like a lovely date night movie that also promises to be well written, well acted. Richard Linklater, a great director, and often does stuff with Ethan Hawke, so that's definitely one to check out. All right, next up, we got a new trailer for Zootopia 2, so we're going to check that out starting now.
Welcome to Partners in Crisis. I'm your therapy animal, Dr. Fuzzbee. Greg, we talked about that. What are we making Merlin? Uncomfortable. Yes. And Francine,
Got
maybe a mouse, but he is your
Nick.
partner first. And
Jay-
we have 2 new partners.
Jason Bateman,
Tell us about
Jennifer
your
Goodwin
journey to
as the
dysfunction,
bunny.
junction.
Well, we've been official partners for 1 week at the anniversary, and we are functioning fine, better than fine.
Yeah.
And we
They had a good chemistry in the first one,
So,
even
I
for an
figured
animated
there was a
movie.
huge misunderstanding.
Notice how she answered first, did not allow her partner to speak, and taps her foot when she's suppressing discomfort. And observe the source of her discomfort, represented by the disconnected affectation of her emotionally insecure partner. But for now, we begin.
Really captured Jason Bateman well with that animation.
Okay, unfortunately, Karen has chosen to see Joel's smile as a sign of aggression. Hackles down.
Pretty funny concept, having to go to like a group therapy session, but they're still animals, so they still act like animals.
I will split you up. No snake.
Eat your Selba. Good addition.
Hops and wild.
Wild and hops. The dream team. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, I thought the first one was cute, funny, surprisingly good. And this looks like it's pretty inspired, not just a cash grab sequel. Yeah, this looks like a fun one for the kiddos that the adults can also enjoy. And even as an adult without kiddos, I still would check this out.
Your worst idea is what you did with your ears.
Those two still have a good dynamic, good chemistry. Looks like a lot of fun. Right in time for the holiday season. All right, that was Zootopia 2. All right, finally this week in new trailers, we got the first trailer for Avatar: Fire and Ash, which we're going to take a look at starting now. Yeah, the thing with these movies, they're absolutely gorgeous, and especially if you're able to see it in 3D.
Of the ancestors is here.
Very transportive. We were talking a lot about James Cameron earlier in the pod. Now we get to see what he's been working on. Wow, this looks incredible. They really just keep upping the game on the visuals. It's starting to look pretty photorealistic.
You cannot live like this, baby. In hate.
If there is something you can do, then you must do it.
Looks like they're heading for all-out war. Yeah. Got a few different warring factions now.
The children. No, Spider. And we will find another way.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Now, the plot isn't the thing to concentrate on in these movies. It's really the action, the spectacle, the emotion. And, I mean, Cameron has done it again, by the looks of it.
Dominion here.
Yeah. That looks absolutely nuts. I'm there as soon as the tickets go on sale for 3D IMAX. The last one, I think, Way of the Water, I did it opening night. 3D IMAX, took some mushrooms, and it's like the closest thing to feeling transported to another land. And if you don't see it in 3D IMAX, you're not really getting the full picture and scope of what these offer. I'm so excited for that. I already was. And that trailer just really knocked it out of the park, too. So, really cool. Excited for that one. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Weekly Reel. New episodes drop at the end of every week, so you get a quick hit of what's really going on in the real world before heading into your weekend. If you're on YouTube and you like what you saw, then hit that bell below. Or if you're just listening to the pod, then please follow the show. But either way, feel free to drop a review in the comments. We appreciate you listening and have a great weekend.